Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me
Where
is
can you find
Sam
those, Bob?
West.
Can you find those on Amazon.com?
You can find this on
Oh,
Amazon.com.
they're probably a steal and a great gift for the holidays.
Yeah, and it's probably might be too late to order by the time this airs, but who knows?
Who
Uh,
knows?
Always a good gift for a friend you love or a grandma you hate.
Sorry to interrupt. Anyway,
That's all right. Today we are back to feats, and we got a big one today.
real big one.
We're going to talk about Magic Initiate.
Magic Condition might be like the biggest feat in 5e as far as like scope of things it can do. That's unfair. Lucky can do basically everything, but it makes you better at everything. But Magic Initiate gives you like whatever you want. You just say, "Hey, I would like to be a multi-class cleric," and then you are. Or you can be like, "Hey, I want to be a wizard with 10 pets," and then you are. It's great. It's a real good feat.
All right, what specifically does it do?
Okay, so you pick a class. It's Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard. You learn 2 cantrips from that class's list. Whee! Then you pick a first level spell from the same list. Using this feat, you can cast it once at its lowest level and must finish a long rest before you can do it again. Functionally, you get a free first level spell slot that only can cast that spell. Your spellcast ability for these spells depends on your choice. Charisma for Bard, Sorcerer, or Warlock, Wisdom for Cleric or Druid, or Intelligence for Wizard. Another thing that's not listed here but has been clarified in the rules is that if you are a member of those classes, you can cast the learned spell using your spell slots normally. So, like, let's say you're a wizard and you take Magic Initiate and take 2 wizard cantrips and another wizard spell. You can use that wizard spell with your other spell slots alongside it being a free extra spell that you just have to cast once per long rest. Figured I mentioned it because, like, you can't otherwise cast that spell you take with regular spell slots. So let's say you're a bard and you pick the wizard one. You can't use the selected bard first level spell with your wizard full casting spell slots. Once you get a level in bard, you can, but until then, you can only use it with a special Magic Initiate spell slot.
All right, one question. The cantrip, I know the first level spell, you can cast that once per long rest. The cantrips, can you just cast those
However many times
willy-nilly
you want.
like cantrips? That's
Yep.
nice.
It's very nice.
Wow. A lot to unpack here.
Yes. This is access to any first level spell you want once per long rest, basically. And then also 2 cantrips. So you can also consider it's access to any cantrip you want. Indefinitely.
I'm more excited about the cantrips myself.
So the reason I like the first level spell is because Find Familiar is a first level spell, and you don't need to cast that more than once to get a whole lot of bang for your buck. That's why I'm like, maybe I do that and get some wizard cantrips. But then you're competing with Ritual Caster, because Ritual Caster gives you 2 ritual spells, which can be Find Familiar and like Identify or Detect Magic or whatever else you want, or Unseen Servant, or any of the other good ritual spells that exist. The world's your oyster whenever it comes to picking anything from the wizard spell list. And you also, like you just said, you have 2 cantrips. Those cantrips can be Mage Hand, Mending, Message. They can be Minor Illusion. They can be Druidcraft. They can be Prestidigitation. They can be literally anything as long as they're on the same spell list. And that's going to be really cool and open up a lot of windows, specifically on characters that don't already have access to magic. It's going to open up a lot of opportunities for your rogues, your monks, your fighters, your barbarians to have a little bit of more tools to engage with the world with. I would actually recommend, like, if you're going variant human, and you really want to engage with the world in some way, or in some magical way as one of the martial classes, this is a really great toolbox just to have at your disposal throughout the entirety of the game. Just picking up Mage Hand, picking up Find Familiar, and picking up Minor Illusion. And that's really all you're going to feel like you need for a long while to feel like you're contributing in a magical means to assist the party. That's pretty baller.
Yeah, I mean, I can see any non-magical class, getting a whole lot of advantage out of this. But what about for casters, specifically casters dipping into this for that same class?
For the same class, I find it's got a little bit of lackluster value there. It's pretty good at if you're taking this levels 1 to 3 again on a variant human, then you're like, okay, I am the wizardiest wizard who ever wizard, and I started with 3 spell slots the first level instead of 1 or 2 spell slots the first level. And if you're doing like a first level one shot, very, very, very good. You can pick up things like your cleric getting an extra bless is fine. If you have a spell that you're like, this is my signature spell, my party knows me for doing this thing, then it's pretty nice just to be like, I have a free cast of that always. If you're finding you're always burning through all your first level spell slots and want some bonus cantrips, you want some bonus first level spell slots, this is a way to get, as long as you know that's the spell you like to use with it, a free extra cast of that thing. that's good. That's perfectly fine. Like, that's the floor of this. With cantrip specifically, like, you definitely run into a problem where once you're in the class, you're going to be getting so many anyway. So if we look at like clerics, for example, I'm going to pull up how many cantrips clerics get. Clerics start knowing three cantrips, and they get up to 5 cantrips as they level. They get their 5th cantrip once they hit 10th level.
Mm-hmm.
There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cantrips that clerics can learn entirely. I'm going to hazard a guess you don't need more than that. I'm going to hazard a guess that 7 is probably more than you need. You probably don't need more than 3, if I'm going to be honest. You're picking the 3 best ones that you want the most at first level, and those are the cantrips you're going to really rely on. And everyone after that's like menially worse than the one prior than it, and that's like, okay, that's not amazing. So the cantrips aren't going to be the reason you take this. Again, unless you're really low level and you want 5 cantrips out the gate, then yeah, sure. But for the most part, you're taking it for the extra spell slot and the full casters that are dipping in the same class. I actually think that's probably the least use case of this, because it's really only powerful again at the very early tiers. But yeah, maybe that's what you are doing. Maybe you know your game's not going to go past 5th level. You're a variant human. You're like, I want to be the clericiest cleric that ever clericed, and I'm going to get a healing word on my magic initiate, and I'm going to have 5 cleric cantrips and be the magiciest, happiest cleric that ever was. I don't know. I put an L in one of those, but it doesn't mean a whole lot.
All right. What about cross-class casters?
Crosscast, I think, is a little bit more interesting because specifically, like, it gives you an out-of-class utility option oftentimes that you didn't otherwise have access to. The big one for me, and I've already talked about it, is you can take Find Familiar on all the classes now, and that's real good. I love little pets. I think it's bananas busted. I think it's the best first level spell in the game. But if you don't take Find Familiar, a cast of Shield once per long rest is great. Plus 5 AC when you need it for a round. Oh my god, is that a good spell? A free cast of Silvery Barbs once per long rest, amazing. A free cast of Absorb Elements even can be in the right setting, game warping. Like, you can go and be like, we go and get some big dragon. I got a new feat. It's Absorb Elements, and then 2 other cantrips for the wizard spell list. And then you go, great, the dragon hits us with the breath weapon. I pass the save and take a quarter damage because I absorb the elements and I don't instantly die, right? And you can get big, powerful effects for first level spells out of your class that your class doesn't normally have access to. Wizard having a really good first level spell list, so that's the one I normally point to. But like, it can also just be, if you are the support wizard, if you're the support sorcerer, if you're playing a class that, like, I want a little bit more robust options in the support tree, I don't feel like I can really help the team as much as I'd like, there are decent options on the cleric spell list that you can pick up, like Bless. Bless isn't a spell I'm like over the moon about, but in the early tier of play, it's great. A D4 for a bunch of allies is a perfectly serviceable way to improve people's ability to interact with the world. It lasts a minute. Spells that have long durations are really good with this because they have a longer term effect for the once per long rest. That makes them marginally quite a bit better. Protection from Good and Evil is another one I would consider to be like on. Protection from Good and Evil is kind of a bad example because a lot of spell lists have it, but you can get access to Healing Word, you can get access to Goodberry. Goodberry is really good with this if you wanted to say, no one in this group has healing and we need a way to get people up. If you're a wizard and with a Find Familiar, Magic Initiate Goodberry, give your familiar a patch of Goodberries, it flies around and plays first aid and gets people up for free. That's very, very powerful. I think that's where you're getting probably the most juice out of this, is using other classes' resources in combination with your own to sort of break the action economy or sort of warp the game towards your best chances of success.
I was thinking perhaps combinations of concentration spells and non-concentration spells that you wouldn't normally have access to. Got anything that comes to mind there?
So like Hex on Wizards can let you set up some Scorching Ray nonsense, so you can do like 3d6 with your Scorching Ray Blast. Now it's a niche build that's not very good, but it's fun if you like to do like kind of if you know you're coming into a table and you tend to be one of the more power gamey people, and you're like, I want to try some off like janky nonsense that feels powerful but doesn't feel powerful at, like, you know, the spikier tables that you play at. You can just say, okay, we're playing with some lower powered people. We're playing with some people that aren't really that worried about their build. Maybe they're newer. Maybe they just like playing the game in a different way. You can say, okay, great. I'm going to take Magic Initiate for Hex as a wizard, and then I'm going to make my entire build built around casting Scorching Ray as much as I possibly can with a Hex up. And that can be a nifty little gimmick. That can be a neat little thing that you get with a first level Magic Initiate for a full hour, and that's all you need it for. That's pretty good. The other build around me concentration effects, I mean, you're going to get outclassed very quickly as you get into the mid tiers, right? Like, very quickly, you're going to find the concentration effects. You're going to be wanting to concentrate on your higher level stuff, so the Magic Initiate stuff needs to be flexible. It needs to be things that you want to do whenever you drop concentration, or you want to do whenever engaging in a way that you don't have your other concentration effects up. So that's just something to keep in mind. But even like all of that being said, it's still quite good. I will say, there are more powerful versions of this now printed. There are feats that give you access to like invisibility and a first level necromancy or enchantment spell of your choice. There are feats that give you access to other like a different second level spell like Misty Step and a enchantment or abjurate illusion spell, I think is what it is. There are a bunch of feats that were printed that give you powerful spell slots, kind of like racial spells, that are better than this in the case that you want invisibility, and of course you want invisibility because invisibility is cracked. But like this still on its own is very powerful. It's something that I would advocate for a lot. I also feel like I should bring up Strixhaven Initiate, which is the same thing, but you get a more limited pick from cantrips. You get pick 2 of 3 listed of like the 5 different Strixhaven colleges. That's not particularly important. What's important is you can use the spell you pick in any of your classes spell slots, so you get the free spell slot and it can work in your regular spell slots. So that makes like taking Healing Word as a wizard way better whenever you can use it using 2 or 3 of your first level spell slots instead of just one of them. Still, irregardless to all those other feats that do something similar to this is a classic. This is iconic. This is one of the best. I want 2 cantrips, and I know what the cantrips they are, and I want a good first level spell. This gives you that, and it will be good throughout all of the game as long as you pick the right first level spells. There's all of them can be great in the early tiers. They'll get worse as the game goes on for some of them, and others will still continue to shine. So you just want to think about that whenever you're trying to think about this feat. Think about when you want your spells to be good, when you want your character to have their biggest windows to shine. And you can probably get a lot of mileage out of this.
All right. So yes, with casters, these will all probably become obsolete as time goes on, as you get higher levels and you got better spells to do stuff with. Go ahead.
I would simply say that the exception to that is spells that are instantaneous with big impacts during all points of the game. Those tend to be the reaction wizard spells like Shield and Silvery Barbs and or Find Familiar. Spells that have big non-concentration powerful effects that maintain throughout the game. But anyway, continue. Otherwise, yes, you're right.
Yeah, all right. Well, I was going to say, what about for non-casting classes?
It's amazing.
Yeah, all right.
It gives you something to concentrate on, and that's huge. Like just having bless on your fighter. Oh, if you're like a ranger that's shooting for the longbow, it's just another way to use your concentration that you're otherwise not using. That's great. If you want a lot of flavor on your rogue, if you're playing like the huckster, sort of like I got all the magic or all the religious symbols and I pretend to be of like 12 different churches, but you want to make that fantasy a little bit stronger, and you take like guidance, you pick up like, again, like bless, you can even take bane in some cases, you can do some nifty little concentration nonsense with it. This gives you a way to weaponize concentration that otherwise you'd be using. That's huge. It gives you two magical tools out of combat to initiate stuff, to engage with the world. You probably don't want any of the attack-based spell stuff in this case because you're a martial character. You have better things to be doing with your attack action than casting Booming Blade or what. Or I guess you could take like Green Flame Blade in some situations. You can do some things with rogues, taking Green Flame Blade to do like bouncing damage and get 2 things take damage whenever you do your stuff. There are some classes that will consider taking some of the supplemental martial cantrips. But for the most part, you're going to be sticking to like the mage hands. You're going to be sticking to the guidances. You're going to be sticking to even like some of the cosmetic stuff like Druidcraft and whatnot can really help you sell a fantasy while also giving you a powerful first level effect that can weaponize your concentration. Like just putting Hex on a fighter is great. A ranged fighter, they're making 3 attacks with Hex. Oh, delicious. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's the end of my questions.
I could go on for a long time.
I know. Please.
Like I was when we were starting this, I was like, oh, do I just go through every single list and be like, these candidates are probably worth it, and these probably aren't. What I'll say instead is we'll eventually cover all of them. Someday you're going to come to this YouTube channel and there's going to be every single top 5 best cantrips for the class. Just go consult those and that'll tell you, or just other spell videos that we've done and being like, is this cantrip good? That'll give you the information you're probably looking for as to if it's worth it on Magic Initiate. Generally speaking, you want to find things that interact with the world, largely speaking, or help your character interact with the world in a way that your character couldn't otherwise. So like if you're a wizard, you'd probably take guidance, healing word, and I don't know. Otherwise, the cleric cantrips are kind of ass. But like you get the gist that you're taking 2 decent cantrips that expand your repertoire and a spell that gives your character something new to do, and that's just powerful. It's definitely worth the feat on almost anyone that can take it. I would make sure you have a concrete understanding of like the tier it's best at is the low tier. There's small exceptions where like absorb elements and shield will be very good in the upper tiers anyway. You'll just be happy to have that once per long rest feature. And on the non-casters, holy, it's so good. It's so useful. Almost any spell you can take is great, especially if it requires concentration.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's Magic Initiate.
Let's go.
You got a rating?
This is a 5 out of 5. Yeah, it's probably a 5 out of 5. Find Familiar on its own, it's so good. It's yucky good. This is a Find Familiar staple to it. Comes with 2 cantrips. It's also any other of the first level spells you want. It opens up classes to do things that are not inherently allowed to do without multi-classing, which means you get to stay in your class to do your thing consistently, which is really good. Within its own class, it's a little bit worse, but it still gives you some extra options. If you want to be like the specialist, it's really flexible. There's a ton of builds that can just weaponize and be like, I just need that one spell. Got it. Great. Now we're off to the races. Yeah, it's great. I love the spell. Or I love this feat.
Yes. I will agree with you. 5 out of 5. Awesome. All right. Well, that was Magic Initiate. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.